Welcome to another installment of Tanks Explained. Today we talk about the Panzer One. The Panzer One, or SDKFZ 101, was what most tank designers would designate as just a light tank, but also female. The gender distinction between males having larger artillery or anti-tank pieces, and females just having heavier light machine guns. The Panzer One in terms of armament was very weak, only having two MG-13s. This, even for the time, was almost laughable, seeing as the development of tanks up to this point, though the Germans did have somewhat of an excuse for this lack of innovation. The Treaty of Versailles prohibited any tank production inside the Reichswehr. Anyone found producing said tanks would be imprisoned and ultimately fined. The engine of the Panzer One was adequately powered and saw decent speeds off-road, at around 16 miles per hour, which is fast for the era, and on road it saw about 23 miles per hour. The exact engine type was the Krupp 305 4-cylinder air-cooled gasoline engine. It provided plenty of power to the vehicle, but an upgrade would suffice. When it comes to armor, the Panzer One was not special. In fact, it was pretty trash, being only 7mm in some areas. It could withstand most machine gun and rifle fire, but when push came to shove, with almost any form of explosive, it would turn into a happy little can of fire. Luckily, the only action it saw was in Spain, and its rival, the BT-5/7, wasn't much better in any real field. The Panzer One only had a one-man turret, and only two crew members, consisting of a gunner/commander and a driver. This design did not see as much success as the Germans hoped, and would lead to the Panzer IIs having a two-man turret. The insides of the tank were much more spacious than they probably needed to be, the commander having a nice storage area in the turret for extra ammo, and if they survived combat, maybe a little seat. The tank also had a wonderful ergonomics thanks to the fact they had two machine guns. The Panzer One was mostly a test subject for the Weimar Republic, and later on the Reich. The main test for the Panzer One would be the Spanish Civil War, which lasted from 1936 to 1939, and was very brutal, seeing thousands of deaths in combat. The Nazis would send over 120 tanks to the Nationalists, and where they saw moderate success, but its problems would soon be uncovered. In most situations, the Panzer One would find itself in city centers, where enemies would drop bombs or small hand grenades and cause massive amounts of damage, or even outright destruction. While even in the open areas, in the countryside, they were not safe, especially with extremely heavy machine gun fire, like 50 BMG. The Nazi high command would find these problems incredibly dangerous, and would use these problems as a guiding factor in their warfare strategies as well as their upgrades in the future. The development of the Panzer One and a few of its precursors took place inside of the Soviet Union, outside the reach of any great powers. The agreement would fall through, but an underlying idea would stay firm. The massive, slow-moving tanks would not win the next war, but fast-moving breakthrough tanks would. With this in mind, the Weimar Republic looked into it, and then they didn't exist anymore. The Nazis would give the bolt of electricity that would be needed to revive the German tank industry, allowing the production and examination of the new panzers. The production of the Panzer One was extremely limited, mostly due to no one being at war, and the limitations put on the Germans after the First World War. They only ended up making around 1,000 of them, and 120 of them went to the Spanish, so not very conducive to a nation at war. But they weren't planning on going to war until 1942, or so they thought. The Panzer One saw many progressive takes on tank design, but also had many flaws the Germans would never fix. Some of these pros, in my opinion, are as follows: the extra space for storage, speed and reliability, as well as ease of use. But there were some serious cons that just need to be stated, such as low armament, weak armor, poor explosive resistance, uninnovative, and just not plain ready for combat. Hope you enjoyed. Any questions, just feel free to comment. I really enjoy doing these vehicles explained, but if there's a specific one you want, just let me know in the comments. Have a great day.
Fritz, what are you doing? Why are we stuck in this boring background?